Good evening, everybody. I'm Srikanth. I head operations for Ayur Universe. We are India's largest wellness portal offering preventive wellness, ailment management, online signature programs in yoga, Ayurveda, and naturopathy for global customers since 2016. Ayur Universe currently hosts more than 300 wellness centers in India and abroad, with a large presence in India, Sri Lanka, and Nepal, planning a global presence in the coming years. Customers from more than 65 countries have booked their wellness program through our portal. We are approved by Department of Tourism Karnataka, Incredible India, and a member of Global Wellness Institute, California. Today, we are presenting you a webinar in collaboration with Atmantan Wellness Center, the topic being optimizing immunity and overall well-being through yoga. Just to give us a bit of idea about Atmantan Wellness Center. Atmantan is a holistic amalgamation of Atma, Man, and Tan, soul, mind, and body. The center is located on a crystal hill that tends the landing healing frequencies amidst the magnificent Sahyadri overlooking the pristine blue Mulchi Lake near Pune. They offer luxury wellness, tailor-made and integrated programs with warm Indian hospitality, known for its result-oriented and evidence-based methodologies that help guests manage their lifestyles and achieve their health goals. They have adopted Locovarian, the use of organic food produced locally, spa cuisine customized to complement guest dietary requirements and wellness goals. It has always maintained best health protocols, hygiene and safety, and continues to do the same in the new normal. Today, we have an elite panel of 3 doctors. Let me take the special and privilege to introduce them. We have Dr. Manoj Kutteri, he's the Wellness Director for Atmantan. He's a naturopath doctor and a 3rd-generation healer. He's got more than 20 years of experience in the wellness field, holds a master's degree in psychology and MBA in marketing. He's got extensive experience across the globe, pioneered in introducing the traditional, authentic Ayurvedic and naturopathic medicine in West Indies. He's a popular columnist for leading media, Times of India, India Today, and Voga, to name a few. Okay, we also have Dr. Sushila, Senior Wellness Advisor. She's a qualified naturopath and a yoga doctor, has more than 6 years of experience, successfully treated people with various lifestyle ailments and psychological issues, very passionate about alternative healing modalities, herbal medicine, and yoga. She specialized in handling various lifestyle diseases, weight loss programs, holistic health, yoga, detox, and fasting. She's also a wellness coach. We also have Dr. Deepa Shri. She's a wellness advisor and yoga programs lead at Atmantan Wellness Center. She's a qualified naturopath and yoga doctor and an expert in acupuncture. She's got more than 10 years of experience in India and overseas, consulted and counseled for ADHD, anxiety, and depression cases, instrumental in introducing therapeutic yoga practices in the Middle East for women's health, specialized in pregnancy yoga, kids yoga, and youth yoga. She's a columnist in various health magazines, including Condé Nast. Welcome, doctors. Welcome, all of you. All right. Now, we lost a little bit of time due to a technical glitch. I will make up for it. Please stay with us for the next 55 to 60 minutes. I have a lot of questions to ask the doctors, and the doctors will take us through the yoga and will give a different perspective to us, hopefully, and we will have a good time. The first and the foremost question is to Dr. Manoj. Dr. Manoj, what is the relevance of yoga and why is it used as an integral part of our lifestyle?
Namaste, everyone, and thank you very much, Srikanth, for a wonderful introduction. So when it comes to yoga, we need to understand, especially because the yoga has been originated from India about 4 to 5,000 years old. It is actually one of the 6 schools of philosophy when it comes to the ancient India. We call it as Shat Darshanas. I'm sure that we must have heard of some of these other darshanas, which are basically Nyaya, Vaiseshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. So these are the 6 Shat Darshanas or philosophies from ancient India. And yoga is one among them, which shares a very close relation with Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya has been authenticated by Maharshi Kapila, and yoga has really been put together or formulated by the Saint Patanjali. Okay, so when it comes to yoga, why it is actually just very relevant in the modern science is because the concept that it believes in. If you really look at it, like a lot of approach in the modern medical practice or in the current world is tailored towards the matter. We always consider the human body as just like a physical body, and we treat by various means, by various medications and things like that. We really don't understand the fact or the truth that this matter also has a consciousness. And this is actually what completely makes the traditional knowledge like Ayurveda, Indian naturopathy, yoga, all these things completely different, because yoga deals with it says like yoga means huge. It's a union basically. So the union is primarily about the consciousness and matter. Okay, we call it as Purusha and Prakriti. Okay, so that is where the yoga originates or the philosophy originates. Okay, same like Sankhya. And then you go through a lot of different things, because the combination of these two things that makes us giving that kind of intellectual power. Okay, like it actually defines our intelligence, and then comes your self-existence, which is your personal identity. Okay, so in today's world we call it as ego. Okay, so this is basically like this is something that the human beings possess. Okay, so the personal identity is then further divided into, there are like three different gunas we normally talk about, which is basically the sattvic guna, tamasic gunas, and rajasic gunas. Okay, so these are basically the different elevations of your mind and mood. Okay, so from there you then come to the all different subtler aspects, which are basically your 5 indriyas, which are the 5 senses. Then you have your 5 action-oriented elements, which are basically your karmendriyas we call, your eyes, ears, and all those things. These are all like what constitute the human body. Okay, then you also have the subtle elements, which are further into like the different tanmatras, and also we also have something called as a beautifully explained something called as the Panchabhutas. Okay, which I'm sure that everyone knows. It's not only in Indian medicine, even in Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, they detail the importance of the 5 elements which constitute the human body, and how we can use the same elements to make a difference in one's health. And that is what actually just really the basis of the relevance of yoga in today's practice, because we use whether it is earth, water, fire, air, and the space. And you can also find representation of these elements in the human body if you really look at it. Like for example, your earth can be like represented as your muscles and bones, which are the solid organs basically. Then the fire is mostly represented as the digestive juices, like, because even in Ayurveda we call it as like pitta, or like the agni. Okay, so that is what like the fire is. Air is basically the air that we breathe in and out. And then you also have water. Water is all the body fluids, whether it is blood or the mucus, secretions, everything, like all the body fluids of your body. And space is nothing but the empty space that you are supposed to keep inside the body. This is actually one of the basic reason why we normally say that when you're eating food, you should only fill half of your stomach, and 1/4 has to be for water, and the other 1/4 has to be for the empty space, which is actually required for the food to be processed and metabolized properly. So every element of these Panchabhutas are really important for the human body to have a proper existence, to have a proper balance of the physical and mental health. Okay, so that is where all these things are routed from. Now, we also know that the benefit of yoga has benefit in overall body systems. Whether you take your cardiovascular system, whether it is your respiratory system, it is your digestive system, endocrine system, nervous system, everything, including musculoskeletal system. The reason I actually just differentiated the musculoskeletal system is because in today's world, yoga has been practiced as a physical discipline. A lot of people actually do that. You can name like whatever you want. There are aerobic yogas, dance yogas. I have recently seen something called as a beer yoga. Okay, drinking beer and practicing yoga. So there are a lot of different, things that people have actually just, I would say, like, I mean, it was actually just misinterpreted, different practices of yoga, because people think that the benefit one gains from yoga is purely subject to physical benefit. And the reason I very briefly, I will differentiate the difference between a physical practice and yoga. What actually happens when you do a physical practice, you know that your body has, we also know that there is something called as aerobic exercise and anaerobic exercise. Or we also know that there is isotonic exercise, isometric exercise. Isotonic exercise are those exercises which you do, which increase the bulk of the muscles, something like similar to weightlifting. Whereas the isotonic exercise are more of like, endurance building practices, which are basically running or even practicing yoga. Here, like the length of the muscle remains constant. So it doesn't really bulk up the muscles, but actually just increase the strength of the muscles, and also for the micro movement, all the smaller movements, like those. I'll give you one example, which is like the fine movements of threading, doing the threading, like, so those kind of finer movements. So yoga actually helps in refining those movements, because it has an action on the type 1 muscle fibers, which are the muscle fibers, they are very, very slow in contraction. And when you do a repetitive practice, like, which is actually normally done in a regular weightlifting practice, you are continuously stimulating the type 2 fibers, which are ready in action. They don't need, like, much of time to just contract. So they are actually taking part in the kind of practices when you do a repetitive exercise. Yoga always defined, it says Thiram Sukham Asanam. So steadiness and comfort is yoga. So when you maintain a yoga practice for a longer period, what happens is the type 1 muscle fibers get recruited in action. And this is actually what helps you in making sure that yoga is a complete body exercise, which utilizes 100% of the muscle fibers that are available. Okay, so that way it is an overall body exercise, and that is one of the reasons it has got a lot of relevance in the current in today's life.
Thank you, doctor. So I picked up, I mean, an interesting thing that you said, that Sikh school of philosophy, and you also said about physical body is treated as a matter, but matter also has got some consciousness. Yeah. Interestingly, you said there is a connection, consciousness, matter, and you took us through so many different things: 5 indriyas, 5 senses, 5 panchabhutas. And the biggest takeaway from what the answer that you gave is, it helps you to work on the type 1 muscle fiber, and that is something that I really did not know. Thank you so much for that response. Okay, now I'm just going back to, I'll go to Sushila. Sushila, tell me, how do you use yoga in your treatment protocols?
Namaste, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Srikanth from Ayur Universe, who has given me this opportunity to put my views in front of all. So as Dr. Manoj already explained in detail the entire physiology, how exactly yoga works in our body, keeping in all those factors that we also follow the philosophy of yoga, we also need to plan a proper protocol, because we implement yoga as a therapy and we treat our patients, we treat our guests with the help of yoga. We also have our retreat, we call it as Journey Through Yoga at Atmantan, and we take our guests to a different level, treating their ailments from, let's say, starting from the general improvement of their well-being till means it could be a musculoskeletal limitation, it could be some metabolic disorders, but we have gained and we have achieved so many wonderful results that I would also like to put in front of all of you. As we all know, yoga is an ancient way of life, keeping in mind that it also helps us to inbuild, or it also helps to improve the mental attitude of a person, not just the physical, but also the mental attitude. Keeping all those factors, when we design any yoga protocol to treat any particular disease, we need to keep in mind certain factors. I'll start from one after another, and we propose this plan to each of our guests and each of the patient in order to get that particular achievement or the result. So there are following domains I would count in the fingers, like fingertips, so we can remember, and it will be easy for us to also follow it when we are actually planning any yoga protocol. It must start always with the style of yoga. So as we all know that there are many types of yoga, such as Dr. Manoj already spoke, we also take some props to do yoga in terms of Iyengar yoga. We also do Hatha yoga, which is a general means physical postures that one practice. So keeping in mind every body has different limitations and different way of practicing yoga. So perspective or the main aim should be to treat the illness, keeping in mind the style of yoga. So it could be just practicing some breathing exercises along with some meditation to treat certain psychological or emotional imbalances. It could be physical postures to treat some musculoskeletal limitations. So understanding the factor that the style of yoga matters a lot when we plan any yoga protocol. Another factor that is the dose and the delivery of yoga. It could be for how long that we need to practice and what sort of practices are, if it is a certain, like we have decided to practice it for 50 minutes a day, then we always need to divide if there should be a 30 minutes of yogic posture along with pranayama, along with certain meditation. And that is how it actually combines all together, not just alone doing postures. The components of yoga intervention, it also counts as like, since yoga also plays a major role to improve the spiritual discipline, includes certain specific attitudes and behaviors. We also call in yogic terms these behaviors or these attitudes as yamas and niyamas. So when we follow any yoga or any yogic protocol, keeping in mind there has to be certain rules and regulations. We start from asanas, that they are the physical postures, the breathing exercises or the breathing pattern, breathing exercises, the pranayama. The next thing that comes is the pratyahar. Next thing that comes is the dharana. Dharana is also a stage of, or we can also call it as a deeper stage of concentration. Then comes the dhyana, the meditation, and the samadhi, that is leading to oneness, that is samadhi. Keeping in mind all these factors, all these disciplines and attitudes, we always plan a yogic protocol. There should always be a specific class sequence that it has to go. Keeping in mind, we also need to follow a particular instructor. There are trained instructor, at the same time there are untrained instructor, those who are practicing yoga without having much experience. When you are looking to treat any ailment, we always must believe on our instructor, and we always must see how much beneficial is the practice that we are doing under them. Keeping in mind, once we select the instructors, also we need to determine that how effective it's working. For example, you can also treat a back pain in the duration of 10 days to 2 weeks, but there should always be a continuous practice. This is not something that we practice and we finish it. So there should always be a continuous training of those muscles, of certain health issues, if it is related, if we are treating hypertension. We always need to practice certain relaxation techniques, certain meditation, certain breathing techniques on a regular interval. There should always be, even though if we practice yoga in some center or in front of our instructors, but there should always be a homework that we practice back at home. So keeping all this in short, I'm sure, like I have told, like what are the protocols that, or how a yogic protocol has to be designed when you plan for a yoga program. Thank you.
Is Deepa there? I'm not able to see her. Deepa, are you there? Yeah, okay. You have to unmute yourself, Deepa. I have a question for you. Can you explain about few must-do pranayama and how do they benefit as a person, and what is the science behind it? You have to unmute. Deepa, you have to unmute.
Yes. Is it audible now?
Yeah, it's audible. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you for the wonderful opportunity given by Ayur Universe. So as you asked me regarding pranayamas, so it is altogether, it's a miracle, I can say. But as of the must-do pranayamas, if you ask me, there are few pranayamas which are like yogic breathing, and there is Nadi Shuddhi pranayama, and Bhastrika pranayama, and Brahmari pranayama. These pranayamas are very much must do pranayamas of for each and every individual, irrespective of any health condition, because these are the ones which are not really going to affect in any sort. Okay. And when it is, I hopefully many of us know how all these pranayamas are done, but just generally in a brief, if I can say, yogic breathing is all about being aware of breathing, of being aware on ourselves, like concentrate breathing, and which is all about alternate nostril breathing. And Bhastrika is something where your inhalation and exhalation goes together with a particular duration. I mean, it's not completely active inhalation or passive inhalation, but eventually we are going to maintain the ratio of our breathing in 6:4 ratio. Okay. And the Brahmari at the end, if I can say, it is a humming bee sound where it is being practiced after every inhalation. There is a humming bee sound which is being made during the exhalation. And how it is going to affect a person, it is something, if I can say, with respect to all these pranayamas, these overall, all the pranayama practice itself manages and brings an equilibrium in our nervous system by balancing our sympathetic and parasympathetic, as our other doctors have already spoke about. And so that which eventually gives maintains all the vital parameters like heart rate or blood pressure and etc. And especially there are many proven studies which are being made with respect to the Bhastrika pranayam, managing with the 6:4 ratio of practice, that is in for 10 seconds. So that means the total it will be for 1 minute 6 breathings. Okay. So which immediately shows up a drop in the blood pressure, as there is a vasodilation which happens in our blood vessels. So automatically it can see that difference after the practice. And when it comes to Brahmari, there is a deeper relaxation level which happens during the practice of, during the humming sound which is being made while breathing. And most importantly, the deeper breathing is what is all important, because many of us are as soon as they want to breathe, inhale, keep breathing in, like making sound, something like that. That faster breathing is not really helping very much, as there is an imbalance in oxygen and carbon dioxide in our bloodstream. Because as everybody knows, like carbon dioxide is bad, and that is what it has to be expelled out with every exhalation. It is not exactly so, because there is a carbon dioxide also equally important to maintain the balance within the bloodstream, to maintain the temperature within, of course, so that your heart will be always warm. That is what is actually needed. You cannot get completely cold. So we all know what is the condition of getting completely cold, right? So with the slower and deeper breathing, there is a proper absorption of oxygen, as well as a balanced amount of carbon dioxide, which is helping throughout the body, through circulating through our blood. So that is where everything lies behind a slower breathing pattern, where we always advise everybody, calm down, keep taking a slower and deeper, longer breathing, which is very much important for maintaining this equilibrium within. And yes, I hope this what your question was being answered.
Srikanth, you're muted. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I muted and I didn't notice. Yeah. So thank you, Deepa. So it's good that you spoke about yogic breathing and Bhastrika and Brahmari pranayama. And I hope that towards the end of the session, you will take some time to at least do a demonstration for one of those, so that
Sure.
viewers can experience and they can also do it at home. So Dr.
Sure,
Manoj,
sure.
I'm coming back to you. Yeah, you gave a detailed explanation about the yoga, and also Shushila spoke about the mental connection. I want to know what is the connection between yoga and mental discipline?
Okay, so for me to answer that, Srikanth, I just want to let everyone know the difference between the right and left brain, because this is something that like I'm sure that every one of us might have come across somewhere or other. Not only in yoga, people actually talk about your intellectual brain, which is the left side brain or analytical brain, and the right side is actually just supposed to be the creative brain. Basically, this is actually just like all the fun that you experience is mainly because of your right brain. And the right brain is mostly ignored by most of us, like in today's life, because we are constantly thinking. I mean, one or other thoughts normally goes in our mind every time. Okay, so anything that we see, we analyze the situation rather than experiencing it. Okay, because this is actually one of the reasons, the whole concept of mindfulness has actually come into play, because people actually say that live in the moment, don't think about all the past, future, everything. Okay, so the left side is actually just what is responsible for organizing everything in groups, like past, present, and future, whereas the right side just enjoy the moment. I can actually just put it in a different example, for everyone to understand. Just look at we all have seen like Google Map, how it is, right? It's all like straight lines, curved lines, it's all like that it's an analytical graph. Whereas if you look at a nice painting of a city, it has no measurement that way, there is no straight line, it's all like someone's creative ideas or imagination going onto a canvas. Okay, so that is a difference, how our right and left brain sees a scene or object in front of us. Okay, your left brain actually sees it like more with an analytical skill, whereas the right brain sees it like a more of an experiential manner. Okay, so this is actually very much important. And as I said, the left brain is also supposed to be meant for organizing things, like with that kind of time span, like your past, present, and future. Okay, and another thing is that we also know, like we have learned in our schools that your right brain normally controls the left side of the body, and the left brain controls the right side of the body, which is actually a common sense, like everyone knows it. Okay, so now when you practice yoga, that yoga normally deals with there are standing poses, there are sitting down poses, there are lying on your front, lying on the back. There are different series of poses, and most of these poses, if you really look at it, they either do it in a vertical plane, or they do it in a horizontal plane, or they do it in a cross lateral plane. Okay, so whenever you do a twisting pose, you are actually just twisting your body, which means your right side is actually crossing the midline, going to the left side. Okay, so these kind of practices, what it does is it actually helps you in balancing and synchronizing both the lobes of the brain, your right and left lobe. Okay, so there's a better coordination between these two, because the left brain controls the right, but now the right is moved to the left. Okay, so there is actually just a kind of training, you can say. And you can also see that like in most of the pediatric exercise, when people look at improving the milestone of a child who has a delayed milestone, they normally just do these kind of exercises, something similar to lifting your left hand and in a four limb position, lifting your left leg and left hand and the right leg together, which means like opposite, like it's a cross lateral movement. So these kind of exercise also helps in stimulating these two, like, so it actually helps in growth of your nervous system, basically, like your brain growth. There are other movements also, like yoga, as I told you earlier, like it normally deals with these finer movements. So there is one particular example I can tell you. If you try to, like let's all try it now. If you try to just move your ankle in a clockwise manner and try to draw number 6 with your right hand, right ankle going in the clockwise direction, and you are trying to draw number 6 with your right hand, right? Is that possible? No, so those kind of mismatched movements that are not really paired together. So these kind of movements, yoga try to help, or yoga helps us in improving these kind of movements, which are actually just not really the usual movement. Okay, so there are other things also. Another important thing, like, I'm just only talking about the benefit of yoga as a mental discipline. Like there is something called as, like suppose you have, there are certain things that are very familiar to us. Okay, like, which we keep on doing. Okay, like I'll give you one example, sun salutation. We know like how sun salutation is done. We could keep on doing sun salutation, okay, continuously. It is actually a learned behavior. And your left brain is actually just meant for that, because your left brain actually just help to learn, grasp things, store it, and then reproduce it. Now, when you do a variation to this pose, okay, like in a standing position, I'm telling, for example, if I ask you to stand on one leg, lifting the other leg, that's a variation in standing. So when you do these kind of variations, then your right brain gets stimulated, because as I said, this is actually for your creative, it's a creative brain. So this is normally triggered whenever you learn a new task, whereas this is actually a pre-programmed task. So practicing of yoga with variations, and this is actually what we normally do, like in Shivananda yoga, Vinyasa yoga. These type of yogas are basically variations from the original, even including Iyengar yoga. They were not really the ancient schools of yoga. So they were actually originated or developed from the basic foundation of yoga. So these kind of varied poses in yoga helps in improving these kind of right and left brain functions. And there are even practices like, I'm not sure like if Dr. Deepa will be doing a demo of this particular practice called as alternate nostril breathing, left to right, right to left, again left to right, right to left. These are all, you're actually just moving it like across the midline, back and forth. So these kind of practices always help in stimulating these two nadis. We normally say that the Ida and Pingala, the left and right nadi, and we also say that there is a Sushumna nadi in front, in the middle. Okay, so your spine has all these three nadis. Your left nadi is actually linked to your left nostril breathing. Right nadi, which is a Surya nadi, is linked to your right nostril breathing. When you do a balancing practices, this is what actually happens. You are actually just creating a balance of these two, right? So if you really keep all these things in mind, definitely yoga is a mental discipline which not only helps in improving all the brain functions, but also for cognitive development, like which are basically the differentiating power, the intelligence, the intellectual powers, your memory, the balancing of your sympathetic and parasympathetic system, because these are supposed to be something that really define your stress adaptation, how well you're coping up with stress. We all have stress, but we don't know, some people really get fatigued, even with a little stress, like they cannot take anything, like they feel, many people actually, when they come to us, they break out completely, like while talking itself. But some people are able to cope up better. So these stress adaptation power, stress management power, all these things are really important when it comes to yoga practices. And I don't have to tell you that how relevant it is and how important it is to just keep those aspects, especially to protect your brain, right? So that's what it is.
Fantastic. It was awesome listening to you. I never could imagine this, the left and the right brain connection. Yeah, I knew that left is meant for logical and right is meant for emotional and creativity. And when you asked us to do that exercise of rotating the right ankle onto the right, clockwise, and it is not easy. I know it is not easy. Okay, interesting. So Dr. Sushila, I'm coming back to you now. How is yoga a way of living, and what are the yogic lifestyle recommendation that you would give anyone, maybe like diet or any other routine?
Yes. Answering this question is a bit difficult in this present era where people are fond of eating junks, where people are fond of following their own lifestyle in their own ways. So a yogic lifestyle or a yogic pattern of living is not something that we need to live like a yogi, but this is all about following a lifestyle in a pattern or in a manner where you live simply, you live in a simple way. You eat simple and a balanced diet. not making life so critical or complicated. So keeping in thought, like we are going to implement a yogic lifestyle by managing our own lifestyle in a better way. When we speak about a yogic lifestyle involves consciously keeping in mind consciously. It's not that we always have a regimen. Okay, I'm going to follow a regimen or maybe a diet or a particular set of yoga practice, and we do it for some time and again we stop it. So it should always be a conscious effort towards ourselves, means from ourselves, our side, to practice or to implement certain changes. It could be, we can call it as changes, because we anyhow in some or the other way, we follow exercise, we eat, we try and follow a healthy diet, but a conscious effort in shaping our attitudes first of all. So it's not just the lifestyle but also the mental attitude. So we need to change the attitude in a better way. We also need to focus on shaping our habits and general ways of life. It could be we can also call it as like following certain philosophies and principles, not just listening them but actually implementing them in our lifestyle. There will be certain guidelines that I must give, and people, those who really want to bring a change in their behavior, those who want to bring a change in their character, bring a change in their way of life, can actually implement those changes. So there are a few guidelines that I'm going to say. First of all, since I spoke about having a mental attitude, a better mental attitude, so we always try to behave good with people. We always try to follow a discipline in our behavior. In one of the yamas, we also tell as speaking truth is a good character. So when we speak truth, we always are truthful to ourselves, we are truth for others. So this is a one simple change that we can bring. See, even Ayurveda says about a regimen, yoga says about a regimen, naturopathy says about a regimen, that from morning time when you get up, these are the certain practices that we need to like follow in our routine. Could be following a diet which is a balanced diet, or maybe having breakfast, or following the biological rhythm in our routine, like managing your day in a way where we have our meals on a proper time, we drink enough amount of water, we do exercise, we pray for a while, so we maintain silence at the same time. So following certain regimen, we already know these are the changes that we need to bring, but implementing is something that we always need to actually have a better vision. So in a way, it happens when you practice the yoga, or when we practice yoga, automatically the mind also flips, mind also changes its character, its behavior. We actually become much perceptive towards any change in lifestyle. That is one thing that I would actually like to tell, because it's something that we know what is that lifestyle change that we need to bring, but this is the difference where we always fail to implement in our lifestyle. Speaking about the diet, yes, there is a character which I believe Dr. Manoj has already shared, that having the quality or the guna in Ayurveda we speak, and according to yoga as well, the literature says that a person should have the quality, the guna, which is called as sattva guna. This sattva guna is nothing but having character, or having certain behavior changes that it brings when we follow a sattvic diet. So what exactly this sattvic diet is? It is definitely rich in this sattva guna, which mainly includes the seasonal food which is available, the seasonal fruits, I must say, the vegetables, the nuts, seeds, naturally produced, also the non-meat protein. So this doesn't include the non-vegetarian part of it, but the non-meat protein also comes in the sattvic diet. There are some other diet, such as consumption of onion, garlic. So these are all rajasic in nature. So they actually maybe dominates the rajas quality in a body. There are some food which are tamasic in nature. Could be the stale food, which is kept for overnight. So that actually brings a sense of laziness in a human body. So yoga and Ayurveda and naturopathy, they always focus on not following tamasic and rajasic diet, whereas just focus on following the sattvic diet, which actually brings a change. The sattvic diet also is a regimen that places an emphasis on the body. It is nothing but also it brings best choice for definitely promoting the longevity to treat any illnesses. When we follow sattvic diet, we can actually see a better I must say a better lifestyle change. When we bring along with following a diet means that is sattvic in nature, we can actually see a big difference in our human body. After this, after finishing the diet, let me just introduce, like, we always need to have a set of some postures, maybe some asanas, a breathing technique, and meditation. Could be, if not meditation, it might be different for every individual, but we always need to have some sort of guided meditation. It could be listening some beautiful music that just soothes our mind, or just helps us be more peaceful, and spending some time for yourself. It could be self consciousness and or self awareness. So giving that 5 to 10 minutes to yourself, it matters a lot. So it's not just a very rigid routine that we need to make, but there is some small changes that we need to bring to our lifestyle, can actually help us.
Thank you, doctor. So what I picked up from what you said is it's a conscious effort. Yeah. So the lifestyle is about conscious effort, changing mental attitude, speaking the truth, and being truthful to yourself.
Yes.
And behavior change in terms of diet, sattvic. You spoke about the sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic diets. And also, most important, you said that invest at least some 5-10 minutes to do your asanas, pranayama, and meditation. I believe that is the key takeaway for the audience.
Yes.
And of course, the main difference is knowing versus doing. I mean, people know so many things,
yes, yes.
but doing is something that very few people do. Okay, I'm coming back to Deepa. Deepa, please tell us, what is the right way to do meditation at home? Unmutes. You're unmutes.
Yes, sorry. Yeah. So right way of meditation, when you ask me, there is nothing as such particularly, because as if you have ever tried to do meditation, meditation is all about experiencing. You know, it is not something which can be explained so accurately and you know, given complete details about how you're supposed to do and not. It's just a guidance that we can do, as the experience depends on different person, different individuals in a different way. All right. So if I can say some little different ways how you can do in a simpler form is, it's not that meditation just the way how everybody thinks or have read in Google or any other place. It's just you have to sit in a proper place with a complete wonderful ambience and creating complete silence without any disturbances. You know, it's not exactly that way. Meditation is all about having a great awareness on yourself. I can say a mindfulness. Once you have that mindfulness over you, every act or every event or even every activity in your day-to-day life, you can adapt a state of meditation in your mind. For example, as we all know, everybody are very fond of walking to be fit, or to be have a wonderful fitness, you know. So if you I don't know if you've heard or not, walking meditation, you can do a meditation while you're walking. You know, it is all about getting aware of yourself, the movement of yourself, how your extremities are moving, and what are the muscle action that you can experience while you're walking, and what are the muscles that you can feel it is getting contracted or getting some little strain over yourself, and how much your upper body is having some little movement, and what is your breathing pattern which is going on while you're walking little faster or briskly, or even when you get little slow, what is the difference with your breathing pattern. You know, it's all about observing yourself, being very mindful and having an awareness of each and every minute changes in yourself. So that itself is a meditation. It's not something that you have to completely close your eyes and sit in one particular place to experience the state of meditation, but it is all about mindfulness, because there are many research papers which has been submitted in mindfulness, mind and body interventions, and where it has been given a wonderful results by managing your entire heart rate, and every organs have been rectified. Every issues can be rectified with even including some complicated ones where everybody looks like cancerous issues, Alzheimer's issues, many mental anxietiness, or kind of a stressfulness in such a way. So this one pattern happened like in a walking meditation. One can be like a body awareness meditation. So body awareness is again, like which I already told you, this can even happen at any moment of time. If during your work, maybe at your break time, while you're taking a nap, it's just a 3 to 4 minutes of being aware and getting going, relaxing, is something almost equal to almost 2 to 3 hours of deep sleep. Can you believe that? So which is something amazing, where time is so precious at this moment. So if you are getting that deeper relaxation just within 3 to 5 minutes, is something unbeatable. Everybody can adopt, and until and unless one doesn't experience it, nobody will know. They always get surprised. How can something get equal to 2 hours of sleep and 5 minutes of just relaxing? So it is something wonderful. If you experience, you are going to get a lot of time to do so many things. And so next thing is day recall meditation. So this is again a very simpler way. It's just recalling your entire day. I mean, for example, now it is almost going to be 6 o'clock, and what all happened since morning, the time you woke up, and what was your first activity when you woke up, and what did you do after that, what time was your breakfast, and what did you have during your breakfast, and next, what time did you go for your work. It's just recalling everything, every event, and visualizing all the goodness and positive things what happened during that period of time, and what was things which something unpleasant happened, and where you can always try and observe, analyze where the things went wrong, and maybe you can always have a room for improvement. So it is again a way of meditating. And of course, that unpleasant issue or situation can always be getting much better in your next day if it is happening, right? So this is again a meditation. So day recall meditation. And lastly, if we come, as everybody, these things maybe not everybody will be familiar with, and this one particular is a third eye meditation. I'm very sure many of us are familiar with this, like concentrating on our third eye, that is where in between the two eyebrows, and where it also shows there is a pineal gland, which is organ which is actually giving a deeper relaxation, experiencing once you start observing and then getting, which is again not very easy. As you are going to close your eyes and trying to focus on it, there are plenty of other thoughts keeps popping up, just like how it comes over our laptops, right? So I think this is the other three starting, which I told. If you can, if people can adopt such kind of a simpler versions of meditation, and then getting into actually closing eyes and creating the ambience and experiencing the meditation, is something wonderful altogether. And also there are many other meditation techniques also which will be getting adapted. As I already mentioned, Brahmari pranayama is also one pranayama which is almost taking you to the state of meditation, getting into such a deeper relaxation moment by activating your sympathetic nervous system, so that you're almost there. It's just a first stage of meditation, I can say. As you already said, hopefully if time permits, that can be demonstrated and continued with a short meditation as well. Yes.
Fantastic. I really like the way that you responded. So what I'm learning from what you said is the three things that you mentioned: be in the moment, be at present. So that essentially means that if somebody's focusing on just cooking, and cooking also can be treated as meditation. That's my understanding.
Why not?
Yeah.
Just be
And
mindful
then,
in everything
and
what you do.
go through the day and visualize what has happened, and of course the third eye meditation. Fantastic.
Yes.
I really loved the way that you answered it. Okay, I'm going back to Manoj. Manoj, when you first responded to my question, you spoke about different styles of yoga, beard yoga, this yoga, that yoga. You personally feel that it has got all distorted. I want to know your personal view on different styles of yoga, and can you throw some light on it?
Yes. Before I even talk about what is actually being currently practiced, I just wanted to tell you, like, historically, if you really look at it, I was actually just mentioning it in my earlier talk about yoga being formulated as a discipline by Saint Patanjali. So yoga has been, I think it's been almost like, I mean, roughly I can say like about 40, 50 years ago, yoga, people used to think that it is actually a kind of spiritual thing, and it's not for me, right? So I think at that time, people were actually just much more sensitive in understanding the real purpose of yoga being a mental practice. And this mind yoga has been evolved as Raja Yoga, which was actually just like, done by Maharishi Patanjali, which is what, like, we say as Ashtanga Yoga, which is actually one of the aspects of yoga. I think Dr. Sushila briefly mentioned about this Ashtanga Yoga, 8 limbs of yoga, starting with yamas and niyamas, which are basically your observances and self-restraints, like, which are basically the code of contact for a person. Like, we know that yoga, as I said, is a mental discipline. So we need to have some self-discipline for us to be able to practice the streams of yoga, which is why Maharishi Patanjali has really dictated that you need to purify your mind before you even go for the physical poses. Okay, so the poses will actually just automatically, you'll be able to do it if your mind is pure. Okay, and that is where the body-mind connection comes, and which is one of the reasons Raja Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. I mean, in the Western world, they treat it as like, a difficult yoga. Like they say that Ashtanga is actually a strenuous yoga. The strain is, for them, it is the physical strain because they do like all the jumping and everything. But the strain for us, when we say strenuous exercise, is because it actually needs a lot more mental balance before you even try to practice it. All these sattva gunas and everything actually comes in there. Then the third limb of yoga is basically the asanas. The fourth limb is pranayam. So it is actually going one step deeper, making you or preparing you for that kind of spiritual realization. Okay, which everyone may not want to do, like up to the samadhi stage, but at least like the dhyana dharana, which is basically the focus, the contemplation, the concentration, the focusing. Those are something that like the common man can really achieve. Which is and here, if you really look at it, the fifth limb of this Ashtanga Yoga talk about withdrawing your senses. Like most of us, a lot of afflictions that we come across or psychological problems that we have is primarily because of this attachment that we have to the things around us. Okay, and we constantly have it actually, because it's very difficult for us to non-possess anything. If you get something, like we own it. It could be anything, and we do not want to just leave it like from us until like we go to that stage of death. Okay, so and this is actually what is beautifully explained in karma yoga and all those things, which is about like doing selfless karmas, like doing action and things like that. So what I'm saying is like the up to the fifth limb, it's been called as something called as internal yoga. Sorry, external yoga. Like all the physical poses and everything you do, they are basically external yoga. And then onwards, you practice the internal thing, which is your meditation, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Okay, that is actually just a higher stage. But this is actually what Ashtanga Yoga is. Now, later on, when it was evolved, they started developing this yoga for physical purpose, because they realized that the common man, it will be too much difficult for them or to aspire the knowledge of this mental discipline as Ashtanga Yoga. So they put together something called as Hatha Yoga, which says exactly opposite. You balance your physical body and your meditation automatically comes in. Right? So then the physical practices came in, like in the form of asanas, pranayam, then bandhas. Bandhas are basically the spiritual lock. Then mudras, the gestures, all these different gestures, or even namaste, all these gestures are mudras. Then also something called as Shatkriyas, which are the Jal Neti. I'm sure that like you all might have known by now. how the Jalneti helps in during this period of COVID cases. So Jalneti, all these things, Vamana, all those things. So there are Shat Kriyas, there are 6 Kriyas, which are purification process. So these 5 things put together, they named as Hatha Yoga. Okay, so and these are the major 2 classes of yoga, and every other yoga that you see in today's style are derived from these 2 basic fundamental practices of yoga, whether it is Vinyasa yoga, whether it is these Shivananda yoga, Iyengar yoga uses a lot of props. Okay, so that was actually completely a different approach to yoga in making your body much more flexible. But these are all ways of Hatha yoga practices. Okay, so then there is something also called, besides Hatha yoga and Raja yoga, there is something which is also put together for a all-round personality development. And these were actually what I said as Karma yoga, which is yoga for action, yoga of action, selfless karmas without expecting a reward, a fruit. Okay, not many of us can do it at this time of busy schedules and things like that. So this is something like nishkama karma, you're not really expecting a reward, but you're doing your duties. And just imagine if the entire civilization, or the whole citizens of India just decide, or I mean everywhere, any country, if they decide to do these kind of personal duties, without expecting a reward, things will be completely different. It actually just dynamically change the world. Then you also have something called as Jnana yoga, which is basically yoga of knowledge. So all the saints who did meditation, they were not doing all the different practices, but they were reading books, spiritual textbook. They were learning Sanskrit in detail. Those that knowledge actually gained them the power of yoga. Okay, which you normally expect from anyone. Then finally, there is also one more branch of yoga, which is actually, or schools of yoga, which is called as a Bhakti yoga, which is basically yoga of love or devotion. Okay, which could be anything, if you really focus, and that is more like a kind of uninterrupted thoughts towards one particular object. So you start loving it more and more, and this is where the mindfulness comes, because you're doing a duty, but if you just put your love in doing it, okay, there is something if you start loving your job, you don't do it just for doing sake. You start enjoying it, and you start really loving that what you're doing, and the output will be completely different. It may not be just a fair job that you do, but it can be brilliantly done. I'm sure that we have come across this particular thing, saying that when you eat your grandmother's food, it tastes much better than eating the same thing in a 5-star hotel. Okay, whereas when it is cooked at home by your grandmother, there is a lot more love that goes in. Okay, so that alone can actually just it can remotely connect you. You don't have to really know that it has come from there. Okay, so these are the kind of thing that we normally come across, different schools of yoga, and most of whatever schools that you practice, we also need to realize that yoga is all about how you just think, how you walk, how you act, how you understand the things. So it's all about the mind, body, and breathing connection. And every different schools of yoga believes in the same aspect. All these things, right? I think that helps you.
Yeah. Thank you, doctor. So what I learned from what you said is different schools or thoughts of Ashtanga, Hatha, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. And also eventually you say everything boils down to mind, body, and breathing connection. Okay, so we are running short of time. I have questions. I really want answers for those questions. So I hope we can take another 5-6 minutes to wrap it up, because we started late. Yeah. So this question is for Sushila. Sushila, you spoke about the protocols of yoga. Can you take us through one example? Just keep the identity of your client in confidence, and then tell us what was the issue and how did you go about addressing, and what was your approach?
Yes, so as I already introduced in the beginning, that we actually run a program that we actually treat so many illnesses only and just with the support of yoga. Throughout their journey, they just practice yoga, so they stay for weeks or could be some days, but we try and help them as much as we can. It's yoga does not have a limitation that it will just treat this particular health issue, but it is there are vast range of illnesses that actually yoga helps to treat. So keeping in mind that yoga actually deals, means you can actually tell in simple words, like there are many lifestyle disorders, as we already spoke about changing the lifestyle. So yoga also helps in changing a lifestyle by changing I must say, like, for example, if we take as an example, diabetes or hypertension as a lifestyle disorder, then it will, we have seen significant improvement in cases of diabetes and high blood pressure or hypertension within 10 days to a month duration. That, in fact, for blood pressure, a significant reduction in their blood pressure, approx, let's say 4 millimeter of mercury to 8 millimeter of mercury range, the change in the systolic and the diastolic blood pressure has been reduced within a duration of 2 weeks. So a continuous effort that they bring with the practice of yoga and the breathing techniques and meditation gradually helps also to change their blood values at the same time. So people who actually suffer with many other mental issues like anxiety, sleeplessness, you can also see a change in the sleep pattern. They sleep well, the quality of sleep actually improves. The disturbance what they get, or the distraction while sleeping, or maybe the habit of getting up in between. So these are the changes or the quality of sleep that actually improves while they practice yoga on a regular basis. We have also treated many cases such as musculoskeletal conditions, could be back pain, arthritis, osteoarthritis, myalgia, where actually yoga has its tremendous effect, where I can call it, like, for example, I must say, we have some patients for back pain, those who have been, like, even definitely allopathy does not have solution for this. They can only give painkillers to them, but a regular training to their muscles means actually treating them, means taking them through this journey of yoga, teaching or practicing certain postures that actually help them strengthen those that back muscles, can actually hold the spine in a proper way. So such cases that we have treated, and we really are influencing, we are actually influenced by such practices, and we are actually even guests, those who practice here, they actually carry forward these practices back at home, so that they can actually improve their lifestyle, improve their health overall. Yes, so it's not something that only such particular condition, but from mental issues to physical ailments, we have treated almost most of the cases.
Thank you, Dr. Sushi. We have overshot time. However, I want this done, so we will. I request Dr. Deepa to take us through. We spoke about one demonstration that you agreed to do in the beginning. You also mentioned about when you responded to one of my questions, you said Brahmari is a technique which can also lead to meditation. So most of us know about asanas. So let's leave asanas separate. I want you to take us through an experience so that people who are viewing this live webinar can go back and practice this at home. Yeah, Deepa?
Yes, for sure. Why not? So to begin with, at least since whoever is watching and following our session, entire talk, will be really very much thinking about correcting many things and gaining so much of knowledge how to apply it in their lifestyle. So just to start with, I would like to start make some little movements of their head and neck and loosen up, because all the stress and tension are majorly getting accumulated in our shoulder muscles. So I would like everyone to just relax that by just giving head and neck movements for 2 to 3 times. Sideward movement, I think you all can also join together, maybe, so that viewers will be happy. Just giving sideward movements for twice, and just go for up and down movements. And also these movements are just not like any sort of loosening or releasing the stressful muscles or tight muscles. Eventually it also helps in all the lymphatic channel to open up and move the lymphatic fluid throughout in a wonderful way, as there are many lymph nodes around our ear, neck, and our shoulders, so in that way, even these things are very much helpful. and just giving up and down movement for your shoulders to release the shoulder muscle stiffness. And try to breathe in, up, and breathe out, release. Breathe in, breathe out. Just 2 times, and just go for a rotation. Release the stress and strain so that there will be a muscular action, which is also eventually helping to improve the blood circulation and the movement of the lymphatic fluid, which is the major cause for all the toxins in our body to get it away from us. All right. So after all the movements, so now we shall start for Brahmari Pranayam, and from there it will be followed with a small guided meditation. So I would request not everyone to open the eyes after even practicing the Brahmari. So first I will show how it actually happens. Even if anybody doesn't know, can always learn. All right. So here you will be closing your ears in this way by using your thumb and placing your all the fingers resting on the face. And after deeper and longer inhalation, you're going to make a humming sound where your exhalation will be happening automatically. Once you feel your exhalation is over and your humming sound is done, once again you're going to inhale and start making the humming sound. So at least 5 times I want everyone to practice this. And after 5 times of making the humming sound, you can just release your arms and relax without opening your eyes so that you can follow my instructions for a short meditation. Okay, so I think we shall start now. And everybody, you can close your eyes and try to keep your fingers in the position by closing your ears. Inhale and do not open your eyes after your 5 times of practice. Let your eyes be closed. Keep your eyes closed after the practice of for 5 times. Try to make the same sound in your mind louder and longer for another 4 to 5 times. With your closed eyes, try to make the same sound of humming bee in your mind. Where you can observe the vibrations of the sound which you just made and which you're making in your mind, in your entire brain and your head. After making the sound in your mind, observe the vibrations in your entire body. A silence within you, a feeling of complete lightness in your body and mind. Try not to open your eyes and get distracted. enjoy the moment of complete silence, observing the frequencies and the vibrations of the humming sound which you just made. As your entire nervous system is completely getting relaxed, flowing the energy throughout your body. Enjoy the moment and try to make a positive and a small resolution in your mind which you can fulfill just before you go to sleep tonight and today. A very smaller one which has been making you feel that which is not happening since long days. Try to fulfill it. Make a resolution in your mind as you are very strong, positive, and determined person. As you experience the complete silence and get connected with a deeper and a beautiful soul residing in you. Slowly bring back your awareness and focus on your breathing pattern, which is going on very slower, effortlessly, longer than usual breathing. Try to maintain the same breathing pattern, every moment being aware of your breath. Now bring your concentration on your entire body, which is completely relaxed and without having any stiffness or tightness. Give a very mild movements to your finger joints, ankle joint, having a very pleasant smile on your face without opening your eyes. Now slowly, let's relax our eye muscles after our entire day routine with lots of work, after having many visions and thoughts, by rubbing our palm and generating the warmthness. Rub your palms well without opening your eyes. And place your warm palm over your eyes, making your palm in a cup shaped, giving the space for your eyes to feel the warmthness without giving any external pressure from your palm. Try not to place your fingers on your eyes. Your fingers will be over your forehead and the palm on your eyes. You can do your palming once again to feel the warmthness. And blink your eyes within the warm palm. And slowly release your palms and open your eyes. I hope all of you have reached a state of complete silence without any thoughts.
Thank you, Doctor. It was a wonderful demonstration. I did the Brahmari and then I was a little concerned that I may go to sleep because your voice was so soothing. I said, no, I need to wake up and just close your fantastic demonstration. The recording is going to be available on our Facebook. I'm sure the viewers can replay it and benefit from the entire webinar. So thank you, doctors. Thank you so much for your time, coming and investing your time and helping our viewers get a lot of knowledge about yoga. Especially I'm walking away very enlightened, right? So one more important announcement that I want to make to all the viewers is that we are hosting one more webinar on Wednesday, 5th August. It is going to be on women wellness, gracefully aging through Ayurveda. I look forward to see all of you, and thank you once again, doctors.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.